Senator, the Majority Leader of the United States Senate, the man from Searchlight, Senator Harry Reid, for being here and always doing the right thing for Nevada. My dear friend, Dina Titus, couldn't be here with us tonight, but she wanted me to send her love. She's going to be a great United States Congresswoman again. I'm so happy to be here with you at the Springs Preserve, such a beautiful place for us to gather today. Nearly 50 years ago, my family moved to Nevada in search of a better life. My father was a waiter. On a waiter's salary, he put a roof over our head, food on the table, clothes on our back, 2 daughters through college, not so bad on a waiter's salary. Having grown up in a middle-class family, I understand what's at stake for Nevada's middle-class families that are working hard and playing by the rules. As the first person in my family to go to college, I understand what's at stake for thousands of students who rely on student loans and Pell Grants in order to pay for school. And that's why, as your next United States Senator, I will continue to stand up and fight for Nevada students and continue the President's investment in education that leads to opportunity. Across our most beautiful state, we have an abundance of sun and wind and geothermal. And that's why I stand up and fight for our clean energy entrepreneurs and workers who are making Nevada the clean energy jobs capital of the United States of America. And when it comes to our seniors who have worked so hard their entire lives, I stand up and I fight so when they retire, we can have dignity and peace of mind, knowing that their Medicare and their Social Security will be there for them and future generations. Education, energy, veterans benefits, Medicare, Social Security, along with women's rights and health care that's what's at stake this November. And on issue after issue, President Obama is moving us forward by rebuilding an economy that ensures that all Americans who work hard, play by the rules, students, parents, hardworking men and women in Nevada can build economic security and live the American dream. President Obama's message to the people of the state of Nevada, its middle-class families, he's got your back, and so do I. So let's examine the other side. Mitt Romney and my opponent, Dean Heller. Their message for the hard-working families of Nevada, buddy, you're on your own. The Romney-Heller agenda would gut investments in education, in Pell Grants, college tax credits, roll back federal student loans, and let the big banks back into the business of student lending just so multimillionaires can keep their ridiculous tax cuts. Romney and Heller would double down on wasteful taxpayer subsidies to big oil companies, already making record profits while they're slashing investments in clean energy right here in the state of Nevada. Clean energy that creates good-paying jobs that can't be shipped overseas. To our seniors, I don't know if we have any seniors here. They would shred the guarantee and security that Medicare and Social Security give us by letting insurance companies in Wall Street undermine your health and your security. I won't let that happen. And when it comes to health care and women's rights, someone needs to tell them this is the year 2012 and not take us back to the 1950s. What was that?
You go, Shelly!
Instead of working to provide opportunity for middle-class families so they can put food on the table, pay their mortgage, put their kids through school, Romney and Heller support the top-down, trickle-down approach that provides massive tax breaks to corporations and the wealthiest among us. That's the vision of Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, and Dean Helen for America. We need to tell them in November it doesn't work for Nevada. We cannot let them win in November so they can roll back the progress that we have made. We have to move forward with President Barack Obama, create an America that works for every American the way we did under President Clinton. Where people paid their fair share, we built up record surpluses, and we enjoyed prosperity along with the 23 million jobs that this man helped create. So starting October 20th, when early voting begins, let's all of us, including you, let's all of us get out and vote, and let's keep moving forward. Now, 4 years. 4 more 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 years. But if you need any more inspiration, any other reason, or any arithmetic to help get people out to vote for our team, I want you to look around and remember this moment. I want you to listen to someone who has been there making the tough decisions, but is always standing in our shoes and understands what we're going through. That's leadership. That's vision. And our next speaker understands this just like our current president does, the importance of always standing up and fighting for America's middle class. I want you to join me in welcoming to our great state of Nevada the 42nd President of the United States, Bill Clinton.
Give it to Shelly. Come on. Are you going to elect Shelly Berkley the next senator? Are you going to send John O'Sagara and Stephen Horsford to Congress? Folks, and you better send Dina Titus, because you know why I'm really sorry Dina couldn't come today? Because whenever she's with me, she got a bigger Southern accent than I do. And I feel right at home. Look, I'm grateful for what Senator Harry Reid said, I thank Shelly for her remarks. I thank John Oseguera. I thank Stephen Horsford. I want you to elect them because President Obama needs some people in Congress that are also committed to build a 21st century American middle class and one that lets poor folks work their way into the middle class. You know, it was amazing. I was sitting here trying to contrast in my mind Governor Romney's account of the 47% of Americans that don't pay income taxes, 60% of whom work 40 hours a week and have children in their homes.
Yeah.
And until this Republican Congress and this nominee and this campaign, we had broad bipartisan support in America from Democrats and Republicans for the proposition that if you work 40 hours a week and you've got children in your house, they ought not to grow up in poverty. Yeah. And that's why Gerald Ford signed the Earned Income Tax Credit, and Ronald Reagan said it was the best anti-poverty program ever, and I doubled it. And it took over 2 million children out of poverty. That's why I started the child tax credit, and when President George W. Bush cut all those taxes for high-income people, at least he doubled the child tax credit.
Yeah.
And when President Obama became president and we were losing 750,000 jobs a month, he increased the Earned Income Tax Credit again and did something we've all wanted to do, which is to not cap it at 3 kids. So if a working family had 5 kids, they could get more help. In other words, this was a bipartisan American commitment until now. Now, you know, boy, we're all a bunch of slackers, us Democrats. Shelly Berkley's waiter daddy who worked hard to help her. John Oseguera's story. Stephen Horsford's story. I was in Northern California before I came here with 4 candidates for Congress, 2 incumbents and 2 challengers. Just think about this. The crowd looked kind of like you, like America. So I'm standing there, and one of them, John Garamendi, is a Basque farmer. The grandson of an immigrant who was my Deputy Secretary of the Interior and still is a farmer and has now 10 grandchildren. One of them, and works that farm still. One of them, Jerry McInerney, was for 25 years a maker and seller of wind turbines. He was for wind power before it was cool. And he ran for Congress because after 9/11, his son said, Dad, I can't let this go without, I'm going to go into the military and serve my country because other people did that for me when we were attacked. And so he gave up his lifetime job promoting wind power and went into the Congress and became the principal author of a bill to help returning veterans who have brain injuries get proper care because they were exposed to roadside bombs, and when they come home they need help to get back where they can function as full-time functioning citizens again. And then one of them was an Indian American, first-generation immigrant, worked his way through medical school and spent 17 years working in a free clinic and being involved in public health and committing himself to women's health. And as he said, we got enough trouble getting health care to poor people and middle-class people that don't have it. We don't need to spend any time restricting women's health care choices. They're smart enough to make that decision themselves. Oh, and then our last candidate was the son of migrant farm workers.
Wow.
Who worked his way through college and graduate school and got a job at the Livermore Laboratory.
Yep.
And not only worked on decommissioning nuclear weapons in the former Soviet Union, but on a new imaging technology that enables us to detect breast cancer sooner and is saving countless women's lives because he did that. Oh, it gets better. But all this time since he was a little boy and his siblings were still making a living as farm workers, he'd wanted to be an astronaut. He was turned down not once, not twice, but 11 times. On his 12th try, they said yes, and he's been to outer space, to the International Space Station. So, I think the Democratic Party, if you listen to Shelly Berkley's story, if you listen to John O'Segara's story, if you listen to Stephen Horsford's story, if you hear Dina Titus's story about coming here from the South, if you listen to Harry Reid's Searchlight story, if you think about all these people, we all just started as people. And we got into politics because we thought the purpose of politics was to make it possible for people to pursue their own dreams. Because we know that the most successful societies on earth today are not the ones which pit government against business, but where government and business work together to do what each does best to empower everybody to succeed in shared prosperity. And that is the difference in this election. You know, I know what everybody says, but when President Obama said I should be Secretary of Explaining Stuff, I was flattered, but the problem is, you know, at my age and Hillary having a traveling job and all, I'm home alone a lot. I got time to figure out stuff. So I had a different reaction to that first debate than a lot of people did. I mean, I thought, wow. Here's old moderate Mitt. Where you been, boy? I missed you all these last few years. But I was paying attention in the last 2 years. And it was like one of these Bain Capital deals, you know, where he's the closer. So he shows up, doesn't really know much about the deal, and says, tell me what I'm supposed to say to close. Now, the problem with this deal is the deal was made by severe conservative men. That was how he described himself for 2 whole years. Until 3 or 4 days before the debate, they all got together and say, hey man, this ship is sinking faster than the Titanic. But people are still frustrated about the economy. They want it fixed yesterday. So just show up with a sunny face and say, I didn't say all that stuff I said the last 2 years. I don't have that tax plan I had for the last 2 years. You gonna believe me or your lying eyes here? Come on.
You have a lot of gold.
And if I'd been the president, I might have said, well, I hate to get in the way of this. I miss you. This whole last 2 years, I miss you. I could have used you in that healthcare debate when I was trying to enact a national version of the Massachusetts law, and you were all of a sudden condemning what you had been for. And I miss you. Now, this election, they got 2 things going for them. They hope you have amnesia. And they know you're generally and genuinely anxious for things to keep getting better. And they got that Citizens United court decision, which essentially put a for sale sign on the seal of the United States of America. And I recommend we send out of Nevada a loud and clear signal that the future of the United States of America is not for sale. Look, here's the deal. So let's go back to that cumbersome thing that no great rhetoric can erase, arithmetic. And let's not forget where we are. The number one thing we need is more jobs, more good jobs, jobs that pay enough to raise your kids and allow people to start buying homes again when they come up for sale. And really start making this country work again. And then we need an education system that people can afford to be a part of, that will educate and train people for 21st century jobs. And we need a banking system that will actually fund new entrepreneurs and people willing to take their new ideas and make a risk and create these new opportunities. So let's just think about it and look at the score. In 51 years, 52 years now, through 28 years of Republican presidents and 24 years of Democratic presidents, we've had 66 million new private sector jobs, 24 under the Republicans, 42 under the Democrats. And when President Obama took the oath of office, we were losing over 700,000 jobs a year, and we kept losing jobs for a year while we waited for his Recovery Act to kick in. But in the last 32 months, we have gained 5.3 million private sector jobs. And that is 2 times as many jobs as this country had in the 7 years between the end of the little dot-com recession in 2001 and the beginning of the financial crash. They always complain, they say, stop blaming President Bush. Okay, we won't. We'll just say that thing just happened out of thin air. Wait. But even if you don't count that, nobody thinks Barack Obama caused it. The Republicans that blame me for it somehow hadn't figured out how to blame somebody who wasn't even there yet. So let's don't blame anybody for that. If you just forget about that and the brief recession 2001, in 7 years, their policies, which the current nominee of the Republican Party wants to go back to, created less than half as many private sector jobs as have been created in the last 32 months under President Obama. Now, it's just arithmetic. And did you ever see the like of squalling that the Republicans did after last month's unemployment rate came out at 7.8%? Yeah. I was kind of embarrassed for them, weren't you? Oh, they were whining and moaning as a grand conspiracy. Oh, they cooked the numbers. Now keep in mind that you heard them at their convention. They must have talked about the unemployment rate 65 or 70 times at their convention. As long as the numbers were above 8%, those numbers were just like the 10 Commandments Moses brought down from Sinai. They were carved in stone, immutable and true forever. Oh, but once they dropped below 8%, there was some sick conspiracy to invade the government.
Aliens.
Now, you can understand why. Because Senator Reid's partner, Senator McConnell, the Republican leader, said 2 full years before the election, their number one priority was not to put America back to work, but to put President Obama out of work.
Yep.
So, a big part of their strategy was to keep unemployment above 8%. That's why they wouldn't take his jobs plan. That's why there are 700,000 more teachers and firefighters and police officers and nurses all over this country who have been laid off by state and local governments that were flat broke. And you know, you got to feel some sympathy with them because they work so hard to keep unemployment above 8%, and they got within 2 months of getting the job. It almost makes you want to cry for the disappointment that they face.
Not really.
They got so close. America is scattered with all those heartbroken teachers, firefighters, police officers, and nurses that would be working if we had a normal economic policy that would have done that, and then unemployment would have been under 8% a long time ago. It might be under 7% today if that jobs plan had passed. But you got to give it to them. They fought hard for it. And they got the job done till just right here a month before the election, they almost got there. And we've all been there where we worked our hearts out for something and we didn't quite get it. We just almost got there. And it's heartbreaking. It really broke their hearts to see unemployment drop. I want a president and a Congress that loves it when unemployment drops. I want people who believe that putting people back to work is just as patriotic as supporting our troops in uniform. I want somebody who understands that we cannot be strong in the rest of the world unless we rebuild the 21st century American middle class and let the poor people work their way into it, and we do it as quickly as possible. I want somebody who says hallelujah every time the unemployment rate drops. I want somebody who sees your faces and your children and your grandchildren's faces every time the unemployment rate drops.
Yep.
That's what I want. And I think that's what you want.
We want
And
it
I want
too.
somebody